Welcome to Global Risk Community Chat. Today, our guest is Mark Costello. I'm very happy to have you here in our podcast, Mark. Welcome.
Yes, nice to meet you.
And likewise. So, before we get into our topic, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am Mark Costello. I'm Chief Executive of Hubb, which is a challenger broker looking to use AI and machine learning to expedite the insurance buying process for commercial customers and eliminate errors and omissions using the same technology.
Yeah. Sounds good. Then, what topic you would like to share with us today?
I suppose I'd like to speak about global supply chain and the effect that has in the insurance market and where I see that panning out over the next 24 months.
So then, well, sounds like a very interesting topic. We have discussed about supply chain similarly before as well. So let's see your insights. So what can you share about it? What are some key things that you have observed, your insights? What do you predict the upcoming
Yeah,
24 months?
yeah. So the key takeaways at the moment, I think, are that we had a global pandemic. Manufacturing shuts down. The world works in a just-in-time model. So it just like it shuts abruptly, it can't get kicked off quite as quickly again. So there's that elongated supply chain issues, and the insurance industry is really struggling to cope with that. So typically we're being told by insurers that supply chain shortage is costing about 30% claims inflation just on motor claims.
And that's actually a big amount, 30% increase.
It's a big amount in a market that struggles to get combined operating ratios below 100% already. Yes, it's a real problem.
Yeah. And so what are some things that you think that can be maybe done or looked into, some key things on this to, maybe try to mitigate this big inflation on the
Yeah. So I think that primarily that and this probably doesn't chime well with my ESG views, but insurers really need to start writing off vehicles sooner and calling it a total loss, because ultimately, when people have had accidents in vehicles, then the repairs are £5,000 and a vehicle worth £15,000. If they're in a courtesy car for 10 weeks, then we're already over £15,000, right? So that's where the problem lies. So I think the insurers need to do that. But I also think it's time for the insurance industry to look at the inefficiencies and the time lags of getting these claims settled regardless. So I think that necessity is the mother of all invention is probably should not be a truer time for the insurance industry to start addressing how quickly they get claims settled.
Yeah. And what are some other observations you have when it comes to this topic? So, how, like, we see that it affects the insurance in this way, the supply chain, but are there any other observations you have, other effects on maybe not on only insurance, but in general also?
Yeah, I mean it's the general part that's important, right? Because I think insurance is there to put people back to where they were before an incident occurred that was an insured risk. I think it's really incumbent on the industry to help as much as we can with a global push to drive down inflation. And obviously for small business owners in particular, if they lose vehicles off the road and they can't even get replacement vehicles, because you have to think back again to the fact that there was a supply chain break. And if they can't get those types of vehicles that they need to carry out their business, we then start looking at causing pressure on those businesses as well. So it's a vicious circle. And I'm not saying that the insurance industry are responsible for that, but they need to step up and be part of the solution and driving down those costs.
Yeah, sounds good. And do you also have maybe any remarks on the risk management and so the insurance and a lot of things insurance could do, but is there anything on the risk management and with supply chain you have?
Yeah, I mean, but for the supply chain risk, I mean that's above my pay grade as far as supply chain's concerned. It's not really where I play, but I certainly think again that necessity being the mother of all invention. now is the time for insurers really to start working with business owners and helping them understand the risks in their business and helping to push forward risk prevention. Again, because those claims that before the pandemic were a small blip now start looking like a big scar on a business's operation.
Yeah. And can you then maybe share some extra takeaway points? I heard, of course, multiple takeaway points for insurance that can do. Is there anything else that comes to your mind that they can, start implementing right away? Because obviously, they need to solve these claims, but that's not something right away they can do, or certain other things. But is there anything, an audience that is listening now on the insurance, for example, that can, start right away doing?
Well, I think straight away they can start looking at claims and expediting the claims process and expediting writing off vehicles so that we can start getting quicker conclusions to claims, because that will minimize the whole value chain problem of waiting about stuff happening. If we can minimize that and really make it much sharper, that's going to drive down the insurers' operating costs. It gives the customer or the insured the opportunity to make a more informed decision quicker. And yeah, this is now the time to drill down on those problems, because if those problems can squeeze a bit, if we can solve the problems that are there, we can squeeze a bit of the cost out of the whole transaction, which makes it better for everyone.
Thank you for sharing that as well. Is there any last thing that you would like to add on?
Yeah, I suppose generally we need to start thinking as an industry about what claims inflation looks like, because the push towards electric vehicles, for instance, is always going to be there. And actually, when we look at the supply break in building materials, is that ever going to be? Are those prices going to dramatically come back down? We don't know that. So now is the time, I think, the underwriters need to start really thinking about what it is they're underwriting against, how accurate that information is, because I think that there's going to be real pressure coming down the line. And if the industry can be more tight and more organized and more efficient around expenses, then we can mitigate that claims, we can mitigate that premium pressure up the way on the customer, even if we can't mitigate the cost of the claims, because that's out with our control.
Thank you so much for sharing that as well. And with that being said, unfortunately for today, we are running out of our time. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your insights, giving insight on well, the inflation on the claims and the effect of supply chain and on insurance. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Yes. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.